Faith, adventure, stories untold. First responder, hearts brave and bold. Beyond the quest, where the journeys meet, from the fires of life to the gaming heat. Slingshot's crew, come join the ride, with magnetic napkins and taco as your guide. Beyond the quest, where the journeys meet, from the fires of life to the gaming heat. Slingshot's crew, come join the ride, with magnetic napkins and taco as your guide. Beyond the quest, where the stories grow, faith, fire, and games in the world we know. Adventure calls, the table is set, let's take the leap, our best quest yet. From the first light to the game's last stand, we're chasing truth with controller in hand. Faith, adventure, stories untold. First responder, hearts brave and bold. Beyond the quest, where the journeys meet, from the fires of life to the gaming heat. Slingshot's crew, come join the ride, with magnetic napkins and taco as your guide. Beyond the quest, where the journeys meet, from the fires of life to the gaming heat. Slingshot's crew, come join the ride, with magnetic napkins and taco as your guide. Beyond the quest, where the stories grow, faith, fire, and games in the world we know. Adventure calls, the table is set, let's take the leap, our best quest yet. From the first light to the game's last stand, we're chasing truth with controller in hand. Faith, adventure, stories untold. First responder, hearts brave and bold. Beyond the quest, where the journeys meet, from the fires of life to the gaming heat. Slingshot's crew, come join the ride, with magnetic napkins and taco as your guide. Beyond the quest, where the journeys meet, from the fires of life to the gaming heat. Slingshot's crew, come join the ride, with magnetic napkins and taco as your guide. Beyond the quest, where the stories grow, faith, fire, and games in the world we know. Adventure calls, the table is set, let's take the leap, our best quest yet. From the first light to the game's last stand, we're chasing truth with controller in hand. Faith, adventure, stories untold. First responder, hearts brave and bold. Beyond the quest, where the journeys meet, from the fires of life to the gaming heat. Slingshot's crew, come join the ride, with magnetic napkins and taco as your guide. Beyond the quest, where the journeys meet, from the fires of life to the gaming heat. Slingshot's crew, come join the ride, with magnetic napkins and taco as your guide. Beyond the quest, where the stories grow, faith, fire, and games in the world we know. Adventure calls, the table is set, let's take the leap, our best quest yet. From the first light to the game's last stand, we're chasing truth with controller in hand. Faith, adventure, stories untold. First responder, hearts brave and bold. Beyond the quest, where the journeys meet, from the fires of life to the gaming heat. Slingshot's crew, come join the ride, with magnetic napkins and taco as your guide. Beyond the quest, where the journeys meet, from the fires of life to the gaming heat. Slingshot's crew, come join the ride, with magnetic napkins and taco as your guide. Beyond the quest, where the stories grow.
Beyond the Quest may not be
Fun
suitable
games
for
in the
all
world
listeners.
we know.
Your
Adventure calls, the table is set. Let's take the leap, our best quest yet. From the first light to the game's last stand, we're chasing truth with controller in hand. Faith, adventure, stories untold. First responder, hearts break.
Oh, you took it away from me. I can't read it now.
Well, I can't leave it up there, Taco. Good morning, peoples. Let's see.
From the
There you
first
go.
light
Well,
to
no,
the
I
game's
can't.
last stand,
Can't
we're
do
chasing
it.
truth. From the first.
Okay.
Beyond the Quest may not be suitable for all listeners. You're going to hear real, raw footage of real life first responders discussing anything and everything. You may hear from preachers, teachers, EMS personnel, 911 dispatchers, and more. Nothing is off the table. And as I stated, nothing is edited out. Please bear with us in these early episodes. I promise it will get better with time as we are just starting this journey. Jokes may be made that some may find offensive. These views and opinions are that of each individual person and not that of the group, Slim Chance Gaming, or any of our sponsors. If you're easily offended, this may not be the show for you. Or then again, it very well could be. With all that out of the way, let's get started.
Good morning, peoples. Sorry about the technical difficulties already. But welcome to the second episode of Beyond the Quest podcast, where we talk about literally anything and everything. As always, got McMedic, got Napacanos. You just heard him a reading.
Howdy.
And then we got the taco of tacos.
Howdy, howdy.
So, um, I can't figure nothing out this morning. What is going on? Anyway, how is everybody this morning?
Bro, I'm
I,
tired.
You're always tired.
I'm here.
Vet says, beautiful disclaimer, sir.
Vet's grumpy. I don't know if I want to talk to him.
Uh-oh. Rot-row. Anyway, I did want to kind of kick things off this morning. So on the first episode, we were kind of all over the place. We did get a comment back I wanted to kind of read off because it had a different perspectives that wasn't mentioned about some of the stuff we talked about, and I figured it'd be a good way to just kind of dive back into everything. It is a very kind of lengthy comment here, but I'm going to do my best to try and read it. It's very bright this morning. So, a shout out to @rain377. Appreciate the comment and thank you for watching. But they said, I haven't watched Arcane as I never played the game, but I enjoy the fact that it has a queer representation. It's something I like to see in the media, so I might check it out eventually. Fantasy and action genres are a plus. On a more serious topic, I do believe that drug addiction is akin to disease and is hardly comparable to coffee or nicotine. Of course, both substances are addictive drugs in the strictest sense of the word, and people who struggle with nicotine and caffeine addictions are valid in their desire to also be to be visible and to have access to relevant resources that might help them with their addictions. But some substances are just more addictive than others and have more adverse effect on one's psyche. In my opinion, drug addicts deserve help and compassion just like anyone else. I've read a lot of stories about drug addicts, both practicing and having gone clean, and it's never a happy tale. People get forced into drug abuse by poverty, mental health crisis, abusive families or partners, loneliness, toxic friend circles, and a lack of a stable support system. And many do reach a point where medical intervention and professional help are necessary for them to quit. Otherwise, the withdrawal might straight up kill them. You're very right in the fact that the system is inherently broken. The fact that people who are struggling with addiction and their families receive little to no help is tragic. And ideally, medical workers should never be put in a situation where they have to choose which dying person deserves their care and attention. They should have enough people and resources to help anyone who needs it. However, I disagree with the notion that some people deserve medical attention more than others. I've never used drugs or even smoked, but that's not because I inherently am a better person or a better Christian than somebody who does drugs or smokes. I just happen to live in an environment that never presented drugs or smoking as a viable option. I'd want to choose in life. For many people who are addicts, drugs were the only option they had at the time, and that absolutely sucks. But alone does not make one a bad person. Nothing excuses bad parenting, of course. The children of any parent who is in no condition to parent decently deserves a safe and happy home that the parent cannot give them. But blaming people for being addicts and not stopping out of their own viola- violation, volition,
Volition.
volition isn't really going to help anyone because that's not how addiction to hard drugs works most of the time. You need actual medical intervention, one more serious than just the hospital giving you some meds and pushing you right back into the toxic environment that led you to drugs in the first place. The war on drugs should be fought against the cartels that profit off of them and the government that doesn't care to fund medical facilities to research into rehabilitation therapy because they have wars to sponsor and prisons to fill. The addicts themselves are oftentimes victims of circumstance trapped in their own personal hell. Who knows? If I was born in an environment where drugs were the only affordable way for me to escape horrible living conditions by getting high, would I be strong enough to refuse? What if the person offering me the drugs was my parent or an older peer I trusted? What if it was my partner, the only person that I could rely on? It's very scary to think about as a non user, but for many users out there, it's the grim reality, not a hypothetical situation. I obviously do not condone child neglect or abuse, whether committed by addicts or not, but I wouldn't put my life above the life of a drug addict. We are both human. We both have an inherent value. And if the life of a Nobel Prize winner or a star athlete is more valuable than mine in the eyes of God, why should my life be more valuable than a drug addict's? Thanks for the podcast, and it gave me a lot of food for thought. So, that was the comment. Let's kick it off. Anybody want to say anything? I do want to say a huge shout out and thank you to listening to the podcast and for giving us feedback and comments. I think that's what's going to be really cool about this because we're going to hit so many different random topics and talking about different things and people being able to put their input, especially something like this it's a completely different view and perspective that we even touched on.
Yeah, I want to give him credit for, uh, well, him or her, I'm not sure based on the name, but I want to give them credit for being very polite and well thought out with their response. They weren't like attacking us for our views or anything. They were just giving their opinion in a very coherent and polite way. So I respect that and I
Well, I
thank
think
them
that's
for
an
that.
adult way to have conversations too.
That's true as well. It doesn't change my opinion on it. I appreciate their viewpoint. I do, but I've just seen too much and experienced too much to really be swayed by it.
Napkins, anything you would like to say?
So first off, like Medic said, I do want to start out by thanking you for your comment. As I said in the first episode, this has always been a dream of mine to start a podcast. So if we're even getting one comment an episode, it makes my heart smile. Um,
I like your heart smiling.
so I kind of want to break the comment down. I want to take a moment because
Yeah,
it is a big comment.
there's a lot to it. I just kind of wanted to get it all out in bulk, and then we can
Right.
dissect whatever we need to.
There's a lot to unpack in the comment. First off, let's start with the very first part of it. I've just started watching Arcane, and oh my lord, I am obsessed and hooked.
So you have started
Such a good, such a good show.
right?
I have been binging it. I'm almost done with the first season, and oh my lord,
I
they do
mean, it
such.
focuses around one of your favorite champs of the game too, so it's a no-brainer. You would
Well,
get
I
hooked
think
on it.
it's. I mean, it's not only that, but I think the style of the animation and the art, the way they, a lot of their scenes, just for the dramatic effects, it switches to like 2D from 3D, and the
Yeah,
art
cell
style
shaded
in it.
look.
I think
I
I
really
think they
like.
killed it with the art style.
I really like how it's kind of given those flashes for Jinx so that you can really understand like that she's legitimately going crazy. I think that they did. I, I'm
Just
just
wait
in
till you get
awe
to
with
season
her.
2 then.
I said I haven't got that far, so don't be spoiling nothing.
No,
But now,
I'm not. I'm just saying if you were enjoying season 1 with it, just wait till you get to season 2.
It really sucks we've
Uh,
not finished it though, because I would like to dive into into that show.
hopefully
probably
next
by
week we
next
can discuss it.
episode. Yeah, yeah. All right. So now to the real meat of the comment. So, um, with the first part, as far as it, let's see. Let me pull up the comment here. So, while I agree with you as far as it being comparable to coffee or nicotine in the sense of danger, I agree with you there. But as far as it being as addictive as, I don't agree. Um, maybe not as much. Well, with caffeine and nicotine in general, it is extremely addictive. And from anybody that has either quit smoking or quit tobacco or has tried to quit smoking or tobacco, they will tell you it is extremely hard.
Yeah.
But it's not impossible. And it's the same thing with drug addiction in my opinion. It's all about the mindset. If you set your mind to it, it is possible. It's going to be hard and you're going to have moments where you would probably rather jump off of a bridge than go without that next fix. But if you're doing it for the right reasons and you have the mindset about it, I don't think it's impossible. Um,
Yeah, I will. I will chime in on that part and say, so I think anything can be an addiction. You do
mhm.
it long enough, and then when you try and not do it, you're gonna naturally want to do it. I think you become addicted to whatever, and it can be the simplest things. As far as trying to compare drugs to nicotine and caffeine, I mean, there's a lot of studies that are saying like nicotine and caffeine are harder to put down than cocaine itself. Um,
Because the negative effects aren't as prominent.
but I
That's
agree
why.
with what you're saying. It's a mindset, because I think it's just like anything else in life. If, like, for example, starting this podcast, are we going to fail? We may fail, but what are we going to do? You keep trying. You know what I mean? You have to make your mind up to reach goals. And if your goal is I'm going to get clean, then you're going to, and you have a goal to reach and a reason to do it, you're going to do everything you can to put that down. You see what I'm saying about it?
Yeah,
Oh
I
yeah,
agree.
and for that matter, these days the most addictive thing every one of us are guilty of. It's these wonderful little smart devices we have.
Yeah.
Now,
How long do you normally go without your phone being near you to scroll Facebook or get online and
Just
look
here
up
to
random
moderate.
stuff? Like
so
it's easily the most common addiction these days.
Go ahead, Napkin. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh no, you're fine. So, and as far as the part about people getting forced into drug abuse by poverty, mental health crisis, abusive families and partners, loneliness, toxic friend circles, etc., that's everything. Do you think that somebody just picks up a cigarette because they want to pick up a cigarette? Do you think people pick up nicotine in general just because they want to? They're trying to find something to help take that edge off.
Yeah.
They're trying to find something to help them get through the hard points in life. And that to me is how it's comparable to hardcore drugs because it's kind of the same thing in a sense. Now, don't get me wrong, there are differences.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you don't take a puff off of a cigarette and it put you in a different mental state. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is it
The
was picked
hold that
up
it can
to
have.
exactly the
Yeah.
hold it can have versus the hold drugs can have is the same.
Right. And then, as far as, in the comment, they mentioned there should never be a situation where another human decides on what human gets help or treatment. And that would, to me, like, that's living in a fantasy. Like that's like the ideal perfect world where nobody would even need help. And because to me, especially because coming from us as first responders and seeing the worst side of people and humanity, like, and I'll give you an example. Um, Not long into my career, we got a call for a very frequent flyer, as we call them, because it was a three time a week. You knew exactly that there was gonna be a call 3 times a week for this person for overdosing, and they had been in rehab and leave. Kept going back to it, and then we got a call for a double overdose and a possible fatality. So on my way to this call, I was assuming the possible fatality would have been one of the overdoses. But when we get on scene and you have two people in their late 20s that are overdosing and they have took a 2-month-old baby and tied a leash around its neck and then flipped like a big crate upside down and tied the leash to the crate so that the baby couldn't go anywhere and that baby had hung itself. Those are the point. I mean, it takes a lot to even try and stay professional at all. But at those moments, coming from where things I've seen and had to deal with, yeah, I mean, there's a big. I would much rather try and save that child than I would that adult. That adult knew what they were doing when they tied that baby up. That adult knew what they were doing because the whole reason they done it is they wanted to get high. My whole thing of talking last time on the first episode of, we were talking about different states that are doing this, like three calls and then we're just going to, we're not going to try. We're going to let you go type deal is because of situations like this. You're wasting so many resources on somebody that is choosing that addiction or that substance, choosing that high and that fix over the life of their child over something else. I mean, to me, I get what the comment's saying, and I get where they're coming from and having that perspective of it. But at the same time, in the comment they mentioned they've never tried drugs or smoked or anything. They were never put in that environment, and I'm glad there's some people that never do get put in that environment. But at the same time, like especially around here from where we're from, drugs are very prominent. There's a lot of people on them. There's a lot of overdoses and new different types of drugs coming in that affect that. And the economy's crap anyway, but everybody living off the government is getting their hands on all the drugs, and that's what they're choosing. Could it be, what they're talking about of the poverty and whatnot that's making them lean to that? I don't think so. I think if I'm living in poverty, I'm going to use every penny I have in gas to try and be able to make it to a job. If I could get a job, instead of I'm going to take every penny I have so I can get high and then live in filth for the rest of the day. You know what I mean? Like, I get what they're saying in the comment, but at the same time, it's like, unless if you've not been around drugs or trying drugs and stuff, it's easy to say that. But when you've had to walk in the shoes of a first responder, and then saying no human should be having to make that choice, well, one, that's the choices that doctors have to make every day. Two, that's the choices that frontline responders have to make every day. People that are in the military, that are across seas, and then when something bad happens, that's choices they have to make every day.
So,
Angry
one
Vet
thing I
Nation
would like
says-
to.
Oh, hang on. Let me get some shout outs real
Go ahead.
quick. First time chatter, Angry Vet Nation, just here to moderate. Vet says, it's either Amy or Chase. They said, I'll never tell. This is getting heavy very early this morning. And Vet said, see why I look forward to this.
So, first of all, I want to point out too that for those who don't work as a first responder of some kind, or have never served in the military, or don't work in an emergency room healthcare environment, they won't understand that we tend to be very tongue in cheek with very dark topics because it's how we cope. It's how we make it through calls like you just described. Otherwise, we would go insane. That's why you have people who burn out after a year or two in these
Right.
fields because they can't handle it.
And
So
and you know,
it's not that
having
we're taking these subjects lightly or
right,
anything. It's that this is how we cope with them. That's why we give this disclaimer at the beginning. Second of all, like you were saying, we've seen some of the worst stuff people can do, not only to themselves but to others. And seeing that kind of thing kind of gets you to the point where you no longer care whether that person gets the help they need or not because you're tired of dealing with them. You're tired of giving them chance after chance, knowing that one of these days you're going to go there and because of their decisions or their actions, someone else is going to have to pay a price.
right. And I will say it becomes a fine line you have to that I've always said being in EMS of when it comes to the point of because the job legit like I mean it takes everything from you. It takes your time, it takes your energy. I mean you're constantly, especially the shifts around here that and the hours you have to work. I mean it takes a lot out of you and it and changes you a lot. But I've always said when you hit the point of losing compassion for people, you're either burnt out or you need to step away because when you lose compassion for people, you can't do your job inherently. I mean, the way you're supposed to, but at when you're dealing with frequent flyers, and every place has them. I mean, it's not just here. I mean, you can go to a different state, different county, wherever you want to go. EMS is going to have their frequent flyers that call, and I guarantee that every one of those services has almost a similar outlook, if not the same one that we do.
Oh yeah, and it's something even the coworkers I have noticed that when we're dealing with elderly patients that have like dementia or Alzheimer's, or we're dealing with children, I'm like a different person. I have more compassion for them than I do anyone else because I know they're at a state where they can't do anything for themselves. They need somebody to care for them and take care of them.
Right.
Whereas when it's somebody who's physically fit and mentally sound and they're doing these things, that's when I get to the point where I'm like, why? Why am I bothering with you? Why aren't you doing the things
Now, I
you ought
will
to do
say
for
to
yourself?
continue with the person's comment, I agree that cutting, working against drugs from the bigger perspective of the cartels and everything pulling it in, that ideally, yeah, that's how you would fight it. But that's from a bigger stage than what first responders can do.
Oh yeah.
You know what I
And
mean?
it's not
Well,
that they're not doing that kind of stuff. It's just these organizations are so vast that for us to ever truly see a big dent in it, we would be in a constant war, essentially,
Well, I mean
because,
that, and a lot of people's gonna get
so
mad because they're gonna lose the money from their pocket.
oh
I
yeah.
want to add. I want to add one thing to what you guys just said, and then at least the way I understand it, and then I kind of want to transition this a little bit. So the first thing I want to say is whenever we made the comment last episode as far as the callousness toward drug addicts, we're not talking about somebody who accidentally got addicted to drugs and because the doctor put them on a strong narcotic. That's not
Right.
what we're talking about. What we're talking about is the drug addicts that have went to rehab and got clean to avoid going to jail or prison and in order to get their kids back just to turn around and as soon as they were out of the legal system long enough turned right back to the drugs. That's the people we're talking about. We're talking about the people who had the opportunity, who was given the opportunity to get clean and still chose drugs over their kids or still chose drugs over having a decent life that they were on track to get.
Right.
Yep.
That's
Very
that's
much so.
we're not
We're not just
to the
hating on
people
people.
exactly. And to the people that
Certain
do that
people.
to the people that do get accidentally quote unquote accidentally hooked on things and get addicted and stuff like that, my heart goes out to them because that's a completely, in my opinion anyway, it is a completely different scenario than what we're discussing right now.
Right. And and to say like how they were talking, I've never tried drugs or smoked or anything. And I'll be honest with you, and because a lot of it comes from my testimony anyway. Of I've been there. I've been to the lows in my life to where I had nothing that I wanted to live for anymore. I couldn't see it that way. I couldn't see the brighter side of anything, and I've turned to a lot of things to try them and this and that, and even to this date, because of that, there's a lot of times like if I have to go to the doctor for something and they're like, "Well, we're going to put you on this medicine," I'm very hesitant to even take anything. I don't like taking medicine because I don't want to get my body leaning on it and wanting it and becoming addicted to it. And I pulled myself up out of that gutter and everything because there was there was one day, yeah, I got low enough that I tried suicide twice and this and that, and I saw it was like one day I just opened my eyes and I saw my kids and I was like, that's what's worth living for. That's what's worth not going out and doing all this stuff and trying all this stuff to just escape, as they said, the personal the hell that they live in. And it is sad that there's a lot of, there's everybody has their own personal prison that they have to fight with, whether they build it themselves or something that they're born into. Because I have seen families of, my heart breaks for these kids because what they have to live in. But at the same time, I agree. Back to the previous thing that you had said, Napkins, of it's a mindset. If that's my personal prison of what it is, instead of turning to drugs, I make my mind up a different way to fight through it. And I think that's, to me, the best way to do it is, of course, with prayer and everything, because that was the biggest thing that helped me pull myself up out of the pit that I'd put myself in, mentally and physically.
And it's one thing to for somebody to talk the talk and say, "Yeah, I want to get clean," but they won't put the action into it.
Actions speak
And
louder than words.
that's kind of what we're talking about here. We're talking about the ones that
Don't try.
okay, for most people, let's just use a young driver. You just get your license, you go out, you get into a massive car accident. There's going to be trauma there, and it's going to take you a while before you get back behind the wheel. But for the people that we're talking about, they'll go out and overdose and be on the verge of death and have to get Narcan to get brought back to life. And then as soon as they get discharged from the hospital, they're taking another pill
Mm-hmm.
or they're shooting up more fentanyl. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah. Like, and so when I say, like in the last episode and whatnot, when we got talking about these different states that are trying these other methods, because even in this comment they mentioned, there should be enough resources for everybody and this and that. And the sad truth, there's just not. EMS is struggling, and it has been for years. There's no pay. You can't make money at it, so nobody wants to go into it. Everybody that goes in it for the compassion reasons of wanting to be able to help people and be the first there to do anything they can, they lose that anyway because the way the job is and the way that these frequent flyers is what they are. And that's every time you get that call after you've been to them so many times, you instantly, like, it's one of those things of, oh my gosh, like that kills my soul when I hear that address, because you know what it's going to be, you know what you're having to go deal with. And a lot of the times you go to these people that are overdosing and you Narcan them and you get them back, and you get them to the hospital or whatever, they are not appreciative. There's no appreciation for EMS. It's most time they wake up and they're wanting to fight.
Yep. They come
Now,
out swinging.
now I don't want to keep beating a dead horse here, but I do want to just say one more thing.
Go for
By
it.
any means, am I saying that I deserve to live more than a drug addict? No, I'm not saying that. Am I saying that my life is more um, valuable than that of a drug addict? No, I'm not saying that either. I'm just saying that this is going to sound really calloused, and I'm sorry. I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
Right. See, and I mean, I'm not in no way am I saying I think I'm better than anybody, but I'm a firm believer in you made your bed, lie in it.
Yep.
Exactly.
That's just the way I
Now,
look at it.
to transition this a little bit, and this kind of ties in with the last part of the comment. And again, I'm not trying to make you hate us. So, there's a reason why there's a disclaimer on this podcast, but I'm just going to throw this out there.
Go for it.
So, you talk about the war on drugs should be fought against the cartels that profit off of them and the government that doesn't care to fund medical care facilities. I'm just going to say it. In the area we live in, it's not drug cartels bringing the drugs in. It's people making them out of their houses.
That's true. That's
I
true.
mean, there's
Some of it. There's been
most.
evidence of cartel activity in the last couple of years, but yeah,
My
for the most
point
part, it is
is,
people in a garage.
my point is it's no different than gun control. You can make it illegal. Just because it's illegal, don't mean people ain't going to find a way to do it.
Right.
You can take down all the cartels in the world. There's still going to be some Billy Jack out there that thinks
Gotta
he's
make a
a
meth in his
scientist.
2 liter Mountain Dew bottle in the trunk of his car.
Exactly. If people want to do it bad enough, they're going to find a way to do it.
Right. Right. And that's my whole thing of they make the choice to do it, to find one way or another to do it. And you can say
And
it
I'm just
sounds
going to say it.
calloused. You can say it. I'm saying that I'm better than anybody and whatnot, and I don't believe that I am. But when I say that I agree with these other states of trying to adopt this new policy of that, I'm 110% behind it. Because when you have these people like this that just refuse to even try and get help because it's what they want. They want that fix. They want that high. They want to live like this and everything. My thing is, I would 100% rather let nature take its course and stupidity win and them be gone, and my kids grow up in a world and where that's at least one more idiot that's gone than
I
constantly have to go get them, take them to the hospital so they can keep doing the same thing, and that's one more person that has that mindset that's in the world that's going to help spread it.
So, a couple things. First, I've said many times that EMS is literally just fighting against selection of the fittest. Uh,
You got a mic drop, by the way, on your comment, Napkins.
Second of all, uh, along those lines, what sense does it make that our country and our medical stuff, like the insurance companies and big pharma and all that, says that let's give Narcan away for free because that could save people's lives, but they want to charge $1,000 a dose for insulin for type 1 diabetics who had no choice in the matter?
Right.
That kind of brings me into my next point. So the final point I'm going to make on this, they say um, it should go against the government that doesn't care to fund medical care facilities. Well, a lot of people, especially that's not in the world of first responders and or that's never been an addict or been around addicts, they have found a way. They have found a way to profit off of it and quote unquote cure people, and it's called Suboxone. And as long as that they continue to get money out of people that are going through an addiction, they're not going to do anything better. And that's exactly what they've done. They've traded one addiction for another and found a way to make money off of them.
Yeah.
That's true.
You hear it all the time around here. I'm clean now. I'm on Suboxone. And to me, no, you're not. If you were clean, you wouldn't be on Suboxone in the first place.
In the last 8 years, I've met two people who were supposed to be on Suboxone that took themselves off of it because the doctor refused to.
Right.
Both of them had been on it for over 3 years, realized the doc wasn't ever going to help them actually get clean, and started weaning themselves down
Well, the
till
sad
they were
part is
completely
I
off
mean,
of it.
it's like almost any pain medication now. I mean, you go have a surgery nowadays or go talk to your doctor about something. Well, we're going to prescribe you this medicine, and they get you hooked on it.
Hmm.
And I think that the whole system, anyway, I mean, it's all jacked up.
Oh yeah. Um, if we're ready to move on to another topic, I have one that kind of relates to the very beginning of that comment.
Sure, but I do want to say, I like the comment of, hey, this is my perspective from everything you guys talked about, because I mean, a lot of those perspectives we didn't even touch on. We didn't look at it that way, and
And
I think it's a good way to help get different perspectives out there. And in no way am I trying to change anyone's mind, but I think it's
No.
good to have all the perspectives thrown out there so other people can have food for thought.
I do also want to throw out, and I know I said this earlier, but don't hate us. This I know it kinda can seem like that we just attacked your comment. That's not what we were trying to do at all. But you're not here to have a back and forth conversation, so we just kind of have to pick it apart, dissect it, and go from there. And again, that is why that there's a disclaimer at the beginning of the show. This is our thoughts and opinions, and in no way are we trying to change anybody's mind or come against somebody that has a different thought or opinion than we do. And I
So,
appreciate the feedback.
Right.
uh, so relating to the very beginning of their comment, how do you guys feel about the fact that it seems like everything these days has to include something from the LGBTQ plus community?
I feel like everybody's tried to make it such a normal thing to fit in that they want to put it in everything. But at the same time, like, for example, don't shove Christianity down my throat, but I'm going to shove this down your throat.
Okay, fair. Napkins, you got an opinion there?
Oh Lord, I'm sorry, boys, but I'm just gonna say this, and I'm sorry to anybody that may watch or listen to our show that is part of that community. And I don't mean any offense by saying this, but the LGBTQ community as a whole, I'm not talking about any one specific person, I'm talking about as a whole, is probably one of the most sensitive groups that there has ever been. And I feel like by these companies plugging something in that aligns with the LGBTQ community, that's their way of trying to secure more viewers and more supporters and not seem like that they're against it.
Sure.
Okay.
I see what you're
So,
saying there.
so I'll put it this way. In the last couple months now, I've finally got around to watching uh, Agatha All Along from Disney Plus. I just finished The Acolyte from Disney Plus, that Star Wars show, and I've finished Arcane.
Mm-hmm.
All three of those include gay characters. And I have to say, after watching them all, two of them managed to make it feel organic and not really preachy. And one of them dropped the ball big time with the way they handled it. Agatha All Along, it's included, but it's not like shoved in your face the entire time. It's more of a background thing to kind of flesh out these characters. And it's not thrown in your face like, look, see, see, see. So I appreciate that. If it's, just a organic background thing, fine. I can tolerate it. Uh, Arcane, for the most part, felt fine and organic. It was a little odd. Didn't expect it, but it kind of came out there. I was like, all right, whatever. The Acolyte, however, drops the ball big time because I'd heard all the angry comments with all the stuff about, oh, they ruined Star Wars. It's a bunch of lesbian women making Force babies now. Well,
Force
okay, it's an
babies.
incredibly simplified way of putting it, but they are technically correct. And they make it out that this entire group of Night Sisters, essentially, which anybody who's a big Star Wars fan would know that that's where Asajj Ventress comes from. And the new canon, the old canon, they were a lot cooler than what they've become. Uh, However, now this new group, they essentially made 50 women lesbian witches in space and gave no explanation for it or context or anything, just kind of thrown in there. And that kind of becomes a problem for me because then it's like they just did it for, like you said, napkins, to get viewers, to get the numbers. Like, look, see, we did it. We did it. Do
Right.
you appreciate us now?
Well, I will say this. Do I agree with um, the whole gay stuff? No, I don't. Will I try and force my opinion on you and change your mind about it? No, I won't. But do I have? Do I know people that are gay? Yes, I do. There's some of them that's really cool to hang around with. I mean, they don't shove it down your throat. They're just normal people too, just the way that they feel. So as long as you're not trying to shove it in my face, I'm okay with that. But anytime that something happens and you immediately turn around and say, well, you're just doing that because I'm gay, then you're not even gay. You're just trying to find a reason to have an excuse. And
I mean,
that's my thing about it. Do I think every show should be putting it in there? No. For example, I mean, they're like my kids. They'll come home from school and be like, "Well, this kid at school says that that they're gay, blah blah blah," and that kid don't know. That kid, I mean, for the grades that they're in, they don't even know what it is. It's just something that they've heard about or seen on TV shows, and they're like, "Oh yeah," because man and woman has been the norm for as long as I can remember. So don't be trying to change what the normal is just because you think, well, we should be included just as much because you're trying to push it on other people to make it acceptable. I think whenever you have a community that whines and throws fits just so they can have a whole month and parade and blah blah blah. Well, I think personally, all the veterans should have a whole month before that community ever even gets a day.
oh, the ironic part is their month is the same month as veterans, but
Oh, I
nobody
know.
knows that.
Nobody really. I mean, they always just, well, don't hurt our feelings, or we're gonna make you feel bad. So I think until society can give credit where credit is due, and that's the two main things in my opinion that deserve the most credit is one, and it's not me trying to shove it on anybody, but I think Jesus gets credit first. And if you don't believe in him, that's totally up to you all, and I get it, and I won't shove it down your throat. But I don't think anybody should be able to argue the fact that the people that risked their lives and laid down their lives so you can have the freedom to run around and act like a fairy or run around and say, woo, I'm gay. Until you're going to give those people enough credit, don't try and take more credit than what they they deserve in the first place.
Fair enough. Like I said, as long as it's done in a way that feels organic and not forced down your throat, it doesn't bother me because
Yeah,
I know people of all kinds, of all walks of life and everything, and I tell them
right.
all, hey, you're not trying to force your beliefs on me. We'll get along just fine.
I'm gonna throw a couple caveats in. Number one, I agree with the same as Medic. It's not something I personally agree with or believe in, but I'm not gonna throw shade at you. I have nothing
Right.
against you. Um,
I think the
as long as
biggest
you're not shoving
problem
it
I
in my
have
face.
as far as
But
that goes, that you mentioned that, is the majority that I've met that I don't really have a problem with, they don't go around saying I'm part of this community. They don't flaunt it. They don't, yeah, well, blah, blah, and go on about it. The people I've met that are very advocate to say I'm part of this community are the ones that constantly try and throw shade because of something that they don't agree with because they know you don't like it.
I know someone personally that every time that somebody does not agree with them, their argument is you're just homophobic.
Yep.
And that's whenever I have a problem.
Right.
Because I don't go around and say you don't agree with me, it's because I'm a Christian or
My
because I'm a straight white man.
my
That's why
thing
you
is,
don't
if
agree with
I'm
me.
at church and a gay person walks in and is going to worship beside me, it shouldn't bother me one bit. Because if I'm
Exactly.
looking at who's beside me, I'm not at church for the right reason in the first place. I could care less
Fair enough.
what you're wanting to do with your life. I'm not going to judge you about it, and I'm not going to try and change you. If there's, I don't agree with it, and if you want to talk about it, I don't care a bit to sit and talk with you. But otherwise, I might, when I'm saying my prayers at night, I might pray, Lord, I ask that, you help this person, keep dealing with them. But I'm not going to sit here and bash you for it. Now, if you're going to
Exactly.
come at me trying to shove stuff down my throat and start bashing me and whatnot, I'll turn my cheek once. But after that, I'm done turning cheeks. You wanna have words? We'll have words. But at the same time, that's when you have to. That's when to me is when they want to have an argument or a discussion and you start having one back. It always goes back to you're homophobic. Well, you're a Christian. Your biggest thing is to love. Wow. I thought the whole community that they go on is all about the love.
Okay. Now, the only other thing I'm going to say,
Mm-hmm.
um, Arcane.
Yeah.
Okay. I haven't got to the point where it introduces that, but I will say everybody could have called Vi.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Fair
I
enough.
mean, that makes sense. That checks. That tracks. Um, that so I don't know. I guess I really haven't paid attention to where it really shoves where shows have started really shoving it in your face or whatever. I've not really paid attention to it because I really don't care personally. I mean,
Right.
I don't
I
care
mean, you
enough
can watch
to pay
any
attention
show.
to it.
You can watch any show, and most of the time, it's going to have one aspect of it in there.
But now let me just preface that by saying it's you have people out there that really are truly against it. You have people out there that as soon as a show or something shows it, they'll turn that show off.
Yeah.
Just the same as you have people out there that anytime that something comes on that's remotely demonic or whatever, they'll turn it off.
Yeah.
I mean, you got all
When
kinds of
I was
people out
growing up,
there.
man, you couldn't watch Harry Potter because that was witchcraft. But you know what? I love Harry Potter. I love
Exactly.
Harry Potter.
All right. So, with that in mind, what would you all pick as your favorite lore for a video game series or fandom of some sort, like Harry Potter, Star Wars, Star Trek, anything like that? TV shows, movies, comics, whatever.
Favorite lore?
Yeah, like the actual like world building involved in it, like the stuff that makes it what it is.
I don't know because like the only really lore and backstories of games that I've really looked into was League, and then they changed a lot of their lore. But when they started the show, I feel like you're getting to actually see more of the lore and the twist come to life. So and it's just all of them in general. It's not just one champion because a lot back in the old days on League, everybody had these big long lures you could read and it tied everybody together, and then they changed it to where you have like maybe four sentences to read, and it lost a lot of the detail for me, which is what I liked a lot. Other than that, I've never really looked much into the lore until maybe something like I've never played it, but I've heard a lot of the lore on like Fallout and the backstory behind it.
Well, you could choose like book series or TV shows or anything else too.
That's cracking me up, man. By the way, napkins, why don't you give a shout out to our awesome sponsor?
Why you gotta put me on the spot like this all the time, bro?
Well,
all
You
the
listening to
time.
this? He don't want to give no shout outs. Well, I will. I want to say a huge thank you to our awesome sponsor, Angry Vet Nation. Um, they are an amazing company. The link is in my about on the page. You can click it. Any combat veterans or first responders that do stream or is looking, to try and help grow their stream, click on that link in the about. Go to that page. You can apply. Literally, their whole mission is to help combat veterans and first responders be able to help grow their streams and do what they can. And I can't thank them enough. I think that's an absolutely amazing thing.
I did get permission to share this specifically for this episode.
All
So,
right.
um, if you guys follow us on social media, you've seen about 2 months ago, somewhere around there, we had an anonymous sponsor that hooked one of our brothers up, Callistus, with a sweet setup. I mean,
Yeah.
the whole shebang.
He was supposed to
That
be here this
is
morning. He was supposed to join us on the podcast, and he overslept.
that all happened because of Angry Vet Nation. So they're truly an amazing organization, and
Huge shout out to them. And they also say that this episode is extremely heavy, y'all. That's the way I
Well,
like it, though. I like the detail and the nobody wants to talk about it. And he says you're making him tear up.
well, Napkins, it's your turn to answer that question. Is
bro, I
there
kind of
anything that you have like a special love for lore wise?
bro, I'm kind of in the dark whenever it comes to that stuff. I didn't even used
He
to read the
he
league
plays
ones, and
simulator.
now
He plays police simulator. He just running around arresting people, man.
I do wish that I would have got to read the league ones now, especially watching Arcane.
Right.
But I don't know. It's kind of like what we were talking about on the first episode. I never really got deep into the lores of really anything. I'm kind of one like even whenever it comes to your character building, I just kind of click through it until I get to the appearance part.
So I'm the odd one then who's like deep into the lore on everything, huh?
Well, I mean, you read a book in a day that would take me a year.
Well, I guess there's no sense of me talking about my pick because neither of you would know anything about it.
Well, maybe one of the viewers will.
Well, it would be the Dresden Files book series, to be honest, about a modern day wizard who works as a private eye.
Is that kind of
Mostly
like based off
because,
D&D?
not so much.
The biggest nerd has been determined.
Yeah, there's no secret about that. Like, I've openly embraced that a long time ago.
Bro, I just pulled
Um,
up your Twitch. Your comments are all over the place.
Oh no, I'm loving it.
so with the Dresden Files, it's kind of a what if all of the like mythology and fantasy stuff was real to an extent, kind of mirrored to our real world. The one thing that really sold me on it was this author, Jim Butcher, somehow managed to write in Christianity in a way that doesn't negate any of its importance whatsoever and still leaves the door wide open for everything else. So, like, in it, the demons that can actually interact in our world are tied directly to the 30 pieces of silver. So I thought that was a cool little
Yeah.
twist to it.
Well, I noticed
Um,
besides like the Harry Potter series that I've read, I mean, most of the books I like is where they take Christianity views and then they just tie them in to make it up the story instead of trying just to go solely off like the biblical stuff and whatnot. Like I read Adam by Ted Decker, I think it was, and it
yeah,
was
you got
taken.
really into him for a while.
It was taking the story of like Adam and Eve, but it was like you were reading an episode of Criminal Minds of the serial killer that was a woman trying to find her Adam. Like it was actually a really good twist. I enjoyed it.
So another thing with his mythology of it all that really got me too was he sets ground rules for everything on how they can interact with humans and everything like that. And for actual angels, their big caveat is they cannot interfere with mortals whatsoever unless the other side interferes first. And they always do it in the most subtle ways possible to keep themselves as distant as possible. And the direct agents for God and Jesus interacting on the earth are people they call Knights of the Cross, who are actually three people gifted swords made out of the nails from the crucifixion. And one of them in the series is openly telling people when you first meet him, I'm an atheist, and they're like, dude, you're using a holy sword made out of a nail from the crucifixion. You have divine powers, and you're saying God's not real? Well, maybe he's like an alien or something. To now in the book series, he's to the point where he's like, well, maybe I'm not an atheist, but I'm not going to say I'm a believer either. And they're like, dude, you literally watched holy fire fall from the sky, and you're still saying it's not real?
I mean,
That
that's a pretty good twist on stuff, though. I like that.
Yeah, I really have gotten really hooked on it and love it a lot. And they tried at one point to make it a series, but that was way back in the day for the Sci Fi Channel, and they butchered a lot of it. So I have a very slim hope that eventually somebody will turn it into either a good series or a movie series.
What was you gonna say, Napkins?
I was just gonna say, so we are stretching. This episode's been quite long, but
Yeah, we're at an hour right now.
I do have another topic I want to bring to the table.
Dum 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 dum.
I know this has been a heavy episode,
Dum
but
dum
let's
dum
make it a
dum.
little heavier. As Christians,
Uh huh.
this is a hot button topic right now, especially with the president elect coming in. What are your views on abortion?
On abortion?
Yep.
I'm a firm believer that if you're an adult enough to conceive a child because you know what you're doing, whether it was an accident or not, and what happened, that's not that baby's fault, and that baby deserves life. And now, I mean, there are some cases everybody argues, well, what about this person that was raped and she got pregnant from it? That's not that child's fault, and you can't blame it on that child.
So I tend to have a
He really
slightly
went there?
I tend to have a slightly different view on it. Not by a lot, but a little bit, and I've had others be shocked by it. So, like in cases of rape and incest and what have you, I think that needs to be something
Or
that comes
incest
down
rape?
to. Well, yeah, I suppose. I think that needs to
It's
be
always an
something that
option.
comes down to more of a decision reached by professionals instead of just the direct party involved. It needs to be a counseling thing to determine whether they're going to be fit to actually do everything they should for this child in the long run. If not, then it needs to be a discussion. Like if it's an underage victim, it needs to be a discussion with her parents of, do you want to wait and have the child adopted out, or would this be the better option? I'm not I'm not saying by any means that anybody who's of legal age should be able to run out and get one. By no means do I agree with that. And I say states that allow that type of thing ought to have a limit on it. And if you try and break that limit, okay, you're getting sterilized. That's just my personal opinion on that.
I'm curious on your opinion, Napkins, because it was your question.
So my personal opinion is I do not believe that there should be quote unquote voluntary abortions. So in kind of like you said, I don't believe that two consenting adults that laid down together should just be able to go get an abortion because they don't want a child. Well, then you shouldn't have laid down together.
Right.
Um, in the in the instance of rape or incest, I believe that kind of like Taco does, I do believe that in that sense, if it's going to do more harm than good, then it should be allowed. But I do believe that there should be some sort of screening or safety guard up. Um, and kind of what I mean by that is, you know, regular postpartum depression is real,
Yeah.
and to have the trauma of going through that and having that child, if that's going to make the mother relive that, and or if the mother's not ready to go through childbirth, let's say it is a minor, then I don't believe that she should be forced to because of something that's not her fault.
I can see that. I think a
So, as
lot
you
of the
can see,
problem
we
is,
aren't hardcore conservatives. We do have a moderate stance on things.
well, the way society is now, I mean, nobody really cares because you can do whatever you want. I mean, I'm just gonna get a day after pill and then I'm fine. So, and then
And I'm gonna even throw another extra caveat on that, because this is something that me and Schizo from Slim Chance Gaming discussed recently.
Mhm.
Um, I also believe that there should be a time limit. Let's say 2 months, from when you find out you're pregnant. I don't believe that you should be able to say, I'm gonna have this baby. Like if you are a rape victim and you decide that you want to have that baby, you shouldn't be able to get 4 months down the road and then say, "Oh, I changed my mind. I was raped. I want to get rid of this baby."
I agree with that. I agree
Yeah.
with that. My thing
Let's.
is, that a child is a gift that a lot of people in the world can't get. There's a lot of people that can't have a child. So I think it's disrespectful whenever people just, oh well, I'm just gonna go get this taken care of because I don't want to have a child yet. Then you
Yeah.
shouldn't have laid down in the first place because there's a lot of people that have been trying for years and they still can't have one.
Well, especially all the options available today to prevent stuff like that in the first place, there's no excuse for it. I mean, you can go to the health department and get everything you need to prevent one for
Yeah.
free. So why are we allowing that in the first place?
Handled that very well, gentlemen, because we're awesome.
You were worried we were going to go way too hard and way too far, weren't you, Bet?
Oh, I did have a topic and I can't remember what it was. I thought of it last night and I wrote it down
Yes,
and then I
yes, we
lost
were.
my paper.
They were worried that we were going to be way too hard. See, we can be moderate about some things.
Yeah, when we want to. That's one thing. One reason I wanted to start this podcast, because we have like usually there's just no filter. We just and that's one thing I like more than anything is I don't like people that beat around the bush. Just
Oh yeah, anybody
be
who's
blunt and
actually
honest. I don't like people. I can't handle lying and I can't handle thieves. That's like two of my biggest pet peeves. So, just being able to be blunt and honest and say what you think and how you feel. I mean, that's one reason I really wanted to bring that comment when we started this podcast, this episode was because they heard us out. They gave us their perspectives, and then we just explained more of where we were coming from. And I hope they comment back again. Because that's how people should have conversations. It shouldn't be immediately I'm going to get mad and I'm going to start down and bashing you over this and that.
Oh yeah. Like that's the biggest problem today is there is no conversation between people. It's just immediately attack, attack, attack. And there's no better example than our politics these days. So, I mean, it's just getting ridiculous anymore. Even our own governor is becoming a joke because he wants to have a feud with the incoming vice president. Like, it makes no sense. Like, dude, get with reality. Understand that we aren't living 40 years ago when the economy all throughout the state was booming because coal was still massive. We're not living in a time when not everyone could get their hands on hard drugs if they wanted, but the reality is today that Eastern Kentucky's become a haven for drug abuse, and he just refuses to acknowledge it. He pretends it's not happening. I'm like, dude, you're living in the past. You were born with the silver spoon. Get over yourself. Wake up to what's really going on.
True, true. Sorry, I wasn't laughing at you. I'm laughing at my chat here.
I'm reading it now.
Your oh my God. Your chat has been a hot dumpster fire all morning.
Gosh.
The chat's starting to get NC-17 on us.
I'm not gonna lie though, the way he answered that in the chat was exactly how I would have done it. Oh, that was
Lord.
great. That was perfect. On hopefully next episode we can get Cal on here. I would love to get Cal's perspective on some stuff because I did. I read that comment that we started this episode off with Cal, and he really wanted to try and make it this morning. He said he had a lot to say on it because to him, and he said he drinks a lot. He has a problem with drinking, and to him it's no different than drugs. But he understood where they were coming from, and he had a lot to say about why he drinks so much and why he constantly wants to escape and how he come to that point of drinking a lot. So I really wanted him to be able to make it this morning because I think that would have been a really good twist to it. Somebody being able to actually be here with us to argue that perspective back with us.
Yeah,
All of us
unfortunately,
combat
we
veterans have something. Yeah, I think that's more of what he was going for. He said he didn't want to dive into it. He wanted to try and make it to the podcast to discuss it. So hopefully we can get him on here next episode.
Yeah,
sure.
unfortunately, we weren't
Too.
able to get up with Cal any yesterday, so we couldn't remind him or anything. I guess he had a lot going on.
Yeah, I texted him. He said he would be. He said he set an alarm, but he can make no promises.
Yeah, that's what he told me, and then he asked me to send him some messages in case he didn't hear his alarm. But I guess he didn't hear the messages either. But yeah.
But
Anybody else got one last topic before we cut it off? We're at an hour.
I was just gonna tell Vet that we can relate the stuff we've seen and been through. We can definitely relate to vets having something to cope with what they've been with.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I basically drink nothing but coffee and smoke cigarettes and everything. So.
Yeah, I mean I get it totally. I mean, not saying that we've had to see the same things because I couldn't imagine what a lot of the combat veterans have to deal with once they make it back and stuff. Because I mean, your mind it gets altered.
Oh yeah.
And it's talk about a living hell that you have to deal with a lot of the time. And one reason, whenever, like the story I told earlier about that baby, I had to deal with a lot of messed up calls that I had to go on, and that was one reason that I turned to when I was home in the evenings. I was drinking because I just wanted to be able to just chill out and let a lot of stuff go. So
I think that kind of ties into last week's episode as well as to what gaming means for us. I mean that's what's keeping us sane.
Yeah, I mean it's your escape. I mean it's a way to just live in another world and not have to deal with what your mind wants to have you deal with.
Especially when we are able to actually all get on together, that seems to just kind of amplify the effect to make it even more effective for us to kind of relax and escape that stuff.
Well, not to mention when we're all on together, it's just chaos.
That's true. Like anybody who's actually watched any of our videos or streams when we're all on together understands we have no filters and we just let fly whatever.
Yeah, well, I mean that's one reason I wanted to do this podcast. No filters, just say it.
And that's honestly why I decided to even do the whole unfiltered raw footage thing. I mean, we could go through and edit this and we could remove whatever we wanted to remove, but in my opinion that takes away from it. That it's not as genuine.
Yeah.
I mean, I would
Yeah.
agree. I listen to a lot of podcasts at work and everything, and I have to agree the ones that hold my attention the longest are the ones that aren't heavily edited and produced to the point that you know they recorded it, then went through, cut out any kind of stuff that could have been problematic or could have gotten them in trouble in some way,
Yeah, we just go
and
with
it just
everything.
loses a lot of things. And the ones
That's
that
why
are
we're gonna get
just more
canceled.
straightforward.
From starting with the audio issues, going straight to just, I'm going to say every offensive thing I can.
I feel like that this episode has been nothing. That should be the title of this episode.
What?
Just offensive.
Offensive.
I mean, I feel like we're on track to start rivaling the Unsubscribe podcast for if we can actually get canceled or not.
It
Well,
should
I
either
mean,
be offensive or let's get offended.
my thing is like, if see that's my problem with everything though is anything that we said, if you take it offensive and you legit get offended from it and my feelings are hurt, I apologize. If there's something that you don't agree with and you have a different perspective or you don't like the way that we look at one thing in particular, send us a message. Drop a comment. I don't care a bit. We'll have a
Yeah,
conversation.
BTQ at slimchancegaming.com, baby.
that's what I was about to say. Don't we have an email address they can reach out to us
Yeah,
on?
like I mean that's my thing that I like the most is I mean how you were talking about not wanting to edit this and it just be raw in the way that we view it things anyway. If somebody has a different perspective than I do, I want them to be just as blunt as I can be. Because
Yeah, just
don't try and baby it down and water it down and everything like can't stand that.
I'm even going to extend this a little bit further. Of course, I would have to
Uh-oh.
talk. I would have to talk to the guys off air.
Mm-hmm.
But if you truly have a differing opinion as us, and you want to get on here and you want to discuss it, send me an email at btq at slimchancegaming.com and we will make it happen. We will get you in the call on the podcast and we will do this live.
hey,
Oh,
we'll even
a
be
live
respectful to you.
debate.
We'll let you get your points across. We'll let you have your say and everything. It's just we want a discussion. We don't want you to just be like, "Well, you're against me because you're homophobic," or "You're against me because I don't believe in God." We don't want that. We want you to be straightforward and honest and just have a discussion with us. Like, if you can be civilized and act like you are an adult, we will completely welcome you with open arms and we won't have a problem with you whatsoever.
I'll
Yeah.
argue with you for an hour and a half and then thank you for being on the show.
Yeah, and invite you back for another round. Like, that's
Now
just
my
how we
thing
are.
is now I will give a fair warning beforehand. If there is somebody wanting to come on and debate and have a conversation about it, that's fine and dandy. Now, if you're going to come on and you think you're going to just be straight up and rude about it on how you handle, I get being blunt and honest, but if you're purposely doing stuff trying to be rude and bash, you better have some thick skin because you will get it back, guaranteed. If that's the type of conversation you want to have, I will absolutely have one with
Oh yeah, you won't like it. I guarantee. You
you.
probably block
You're,
us after.
you're naturally
And
just
it
trying to invite everybody on and tacos.
no
Like, you ain't
matter
gonna like us.
no matter what happens, baby, it will be recorded, it will be live cuz this is raw and edited. I'm just saying.
Like I said, if you want to have a discussion with us, we'll talk for an hour, hour and a half, whatever, and then we'll thank you and invite you back again. But if you want to come on here with an attitude, we can give it back, and trust me, we know how to give an attitude to people to the point they don't like us.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm just saying, I have family members that have me blocked on Facebook.
I have family members I have blocked on Facebook.
That's true.
Um,
Can't deny that.
Before we do go, I did want to mention this real quick because we are a gaming channel and stuff. Has anybody heard about the new game Supervive?
No, I don't think I
Nope,
have.
I haven't either.
It's on Steam, free to play. It is a MOBA mixed with a first-person shooter type deal, but it's not like I don't know how they're. I've not played it yet, but I've watched a lot of gameplay on it. It's not. It's almost looks like you're playing Dota in a way, um, but it's. I mean, it's a MOBA nonetheless. There was a lot of talk that on a Twitch last night that I was watching. They were talking about how they kind of miss Dota and they were bashing League because the whole Dota League battle thing, and somebody made the comment that they expect Dota to die out because of this Supervive game that has just come out. That a lot of
Well, I
the
know
top
there's.
streamers are playing now and whatnot. And I looked up gameplay because I've tried Dota too. Don't don't get me wrong. I couldn't get into Dota. I don't know what it was. And then I looked up gameplay of Supervive because I was like, well, if this is putting Dota out of business for good, I got to see it. And I got to say, I wasn't like, oh, I'm going to play this. Like Deadlock looked better to me than what this did.
So I did watch a video of a guy reviewing a game that isn't out just yet. It's going into a testing mode soon for people to try out. Let me see if I can find it here. Do, do, do.
Talk about a game getting ready to go into testing mode. Long Drive North is going to be a real fun one for Slim Chance to play. I'm just saying.
What is that one now?
It's a co-op RV simulator where it's basically like an RV simulator and something like
Survival.
yeah, it's kind of like if a simulation game and Conan was to have a love child.
Me and Napkins are discussing trying to do a playlist of that on our YouTube. Which, if nobody has
There we
it,
go.
go check out our YouTube channel. It's Slim Chance Gaming Crew on YouTube.
So that new one that will be going into playtesting soon is called Core Punk, and it's like MOBA mixed with MMO. Like the gameplay is more like MOBA, including you use your abilities based on buttons, but the map has a fog of war that you have to explore the map to actually be able to see it all. Um, Apparently, though,
That's
it
how
is.
a lot of the games were, like MMOs wise.
Yeah, you do like quest and everything in it, so it looked interesting to me, but I'm kind of put off by the fact that, for one, they aren't on any of the platforms as far as being able to go to like Steam or anywhere to get it. You have to go to their website
Mm-hmm.
and you have to pay to even get early access to test it right now.
Well,
That seems
that's
ridiculous.
yeah, I almost said something else that's not nice for whenever we're live or recording. But yeah, that seems stupid.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
I
retarded.
get it. They are a small company, like this is their first game and all that, so I
Mhm.
kind of get that part of it, but I also feel like if you're really wanting it to be something, then maybe you ought to look into trying to get it on Steam.
Well,
I'll keep an eye on
any
it though
game
and
you
let
put
y'all
on a big
know.
platform, I mean, that'd be the ideal way to do it.
Yeah, like I said, I'll keep an eye on it and let y'all know if anything comes of it, but
I'm not
it
trying to
looked
throw
interesting.
shade on Steam or anything, but if Steam is like anything like any other major um, companies that have major app platforms, like the ones that have fruit for logos, they charge like $200 a year just to be able to publish an app. Plus, it has to go through rigorous testing and pass it before they'll let it be live.
Fruit for
So
logos. It was very subtle.
Yeah, I thought so.
Okay, fellers. So we've got we're coming in right on the last few minutes. Any last comments?
I just wanted to say one
Insights?
more time, reach out to us by email at btq@slimechancegaming.com. Check out our sponsor, angryvetnation.org. If you are a veteran or a first responder,
Yes, check them
feel free
out.
to get on there and apply for services.
Heard you wouldn't.
Now, I will say one little caveat to anybody that is thinking about applying for services. Do it now. It is a little bit of a slow process, but if you are even think I might want to do this, go ahead and apply. They
Well,
get
hang on, hang
tons
on,
of
hang on. You got to
applicants.
add. A lot of people would think you wouldn't have to add this in there, but you have to be a first responder or a veteran. Have to be. Don't lie about it. You have to be one, or I mean, that's what it's for. Don't just go apply because maybe on one day I want to be. I mean, you have to be. That's what they're there for. You
Right.
think you wouldn't
And
have to say this, but I'm
if
just
you
gonna be
try and
honest with you,
lie,
there's a
they
lot of
will
stupid
figure it
people in
out.
the world.
That's right.
Yeah.
Some people's kids, man.
Some people's kids, I'm telling you, and their parents.
Grandparents too, in some cases.
Well,
Yep, I will say that as well. Like Taco said, there is a fair disclaimer in there.
yeah,
We can't be held responsible for what happens if you lie because they are a legit organization. They do have resources. They will report you.
yeah. It does take a lot of behind the scenes stuff and takes 1 to 2 months to process one application. So make sure that if you are thinking about it or interested in it, you get on there and go ahead and apply as soon as possible so you can get that ball rolling. Because if
Sounds
you ain't
good.
rolling, you ain't going nowhere.
If you ain't rolling, you sitting.
That's deep. That's deep right there.
I need
Some
to go
great
to
insight
bed.
there, Nickens.
Oh, but I believe that's going to do it for the second episode of Beyond the Quest.
I don't know why that reminded me of earlier. This could either go good or bad. It could either go good or bad. That's like being awake or asleep. Appreciate the insight.
So hopefully next episode we'll have Callistus on here with us. I'd love to be able to get Schizo on here too. If I've ever met somebody that likes to argue and debate, it's Schizo.
Oh yeah. It doesn't matter if he knows nothing about the subject.
Opposite of his beliefs just to argue with him. Anybody that is interested on trying to be on the podcast, if you want to have a debate or a conversation and get your perspectives out there and everything, make sure that you hit that email up at, what was the napkins?
BTQ@slimchancegaming.com.
BTQ. I like the way you say it. You say it so professional.
Yeah, I know.
I'm just watching. I'm watching the chat of that's pretty. I mean, okay. But I appreciate everybody that stopped by. Make sure you share it. Get the word out. We're really hoping that this grows really good. In Slim Chance Gaming in a whole, we're looking to get our community growing and doing something that we really enjoy. And once again, a huge shout out to our sponsors. Make sure you tune in next week, Monday, 9 a.m. for the third episode. Till next time, love y'all. Jesus loves you more. Bye.
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 From the first light to the game's last stand, we're chasing truth with controller in hand. Faith, adventure, stories untold. First responder, hearts brave and bold. Beyond the quest, where the journeys meet. From the fires of life to the gaming heat. Slim Chance crew, come join the ride. With magnetic napkins and Taco as your guide. Beyond the quest, where the journeys meet. From the fires of life to the gaming heat. Slim Chance crew, come join the ride. With magnetic napkins and Taco as your guide. Beyond the quest, memories grow. Faith, fire, and games in the world we know. Adventure calls, the table is set. Let's take the leap, our best quest yet. From the first light to the game's last stand, we're chasing truth with controller in hand. Faith, adventure, stories untold. First responder, hearts brave and bold. Beyond the quest, where the journeys meet. From the fires of life to the gaming heat.